suburban life. So much is the same. Week after week. Who hasn't had the impulse to put their life on hold for a moment? Just vanish completely. My wife's first call would be to my office.
No, he hasn't come in. No, he didn't say anything. Car's still there. The plot thickens.
How far am I willing to let this go?
Welcome to What the Flick. I'm Dave White, not Alonzo Duralde. That's Matt Atchity.
Not Ben Mankiewicz.
That's Christy Lemire.
I'm always Christy.
And what movies are we talking about?
This is Wakefield. This came out last week in limited release, but it's really good. So Matt and I wanted to play catch up with it. Bryan Cranston stars as this very high-powered lawyer in Manhattan, and one day he comes home to his beautiful house in like Westchester County, I think it is, and there's been a blackout. And he goes up to the attic above the garage to shoo away this raccoon he has seen. And he just stays there for a long time. He just decides to check out of his life and spy on his family from afar. And flashbacks explain how he's gotten to that stage. And it's this very showy tour de force performance from Bryan Cranston. Take a look.
I never left my family. I left myself. Unshackled, I'll become the Howard Wakefield I was meant to be.
I really like this movie.
Me too.
I really like this movie. A lot of it is Cranston's performance and his narration. The narration is a lot of his internal thoughts. And there's times that he tips into maybe not quite unreliable narrator category, but certainly somebody that there's something clearly off. I mean, over and above what he's doing, there's something clearly off about this guy. And this dark, he manages to straddle the character and the performance, and you really start to feel and understand how this character can straddle this love that he has for his family and this towering resentment and cynicism and manipulation that he does. And this is really a fascinating movie. And at no point, it's a rare treat that to have a movie like this where I never knew where it was going and what was gonna happen in it. And the journey that he takes you on and the things that happen in this, and this is based off an E.L. Doctorow story from that was in the New Yorker, I think about 15 years ago, which I went and read.
Yeah,
and
is this similar?
And it is similar.
Okay.
I found it to be very close to that, up into and including the ending, and which I loved in this movie.
I love the ending too.
Loved the ending.
Because you can interpret it a lot of different ways.
Right, and this is a movie that I found to be, it's a fascinating almost companion to what Cranston does in Breaking Bad, in that you watch this character who you empathize and even start to understand even as he's loathsome. And there's, the movie starts out with this character doing something completely despicable and then continuing to kind of double down on that behavior. And yet, if not approve of it, you at least understand how he gets there. And maybe, and in that understanding, you do somewhat start to maybe almost identify in a really weird, gross way. And the way this is shot is also like almost entirely from his point of view. A lot of it takes place up in the attic. You see him looking out the window of the attic into the windows of the house, watching Jennifer Garner, who puts in this interesting performance in a sense that you almost never get to see her in close-up. Like it's all these very distant.
And in flashbacks. Which are possibly also unreliable.
Yeah, I really like this movie.
I too, and a lot of it is that I was concerned at first because it is so much narration, it is so much like it's an internal monologue of him observing things and commenting on things and remembering things, and I thought at first, like this is gonna be wall-to-wall voiceover, it's gonna over-explain everything to us that we're seeing. But because it is so darkly funny and so outright shocking at times, and he's doing all these various voices as people come to the house and they're so worried about her, and as he observes what she's doing, which may or may not jibe with our expectations of what somebody might do in that situation, meaning the wife. He's narrating it and doing different voices, and there are flashbacks to what their marriage was like before, which helps explain how he got to this point, and the contrast between how he looks outwardly with his tailored Burberry suits and this beautiful home and gorgeous twin daughters, and how he truly feels and how he has been deteriorating internally for a long time. It's a really fascinating contrast. Yeah, anybody who has tried to put on that facade of success despite what's really happening can relate to that, and that's what's interesting about this, which is how you say you almost empathize with him. Like you change the way you feel about his character throughout the entirety of the film and about her character through his eyes. And yeah, it's really great. The absolute last moment, like I don't even know that I know what happens, and I love that about it. I think it's really ballsy. This was written and directed by Robin Swicord, longtime screenwriter, and you and I discussed this movie on KCRW on the radio show that you're doing tomorrow.
Yes.
I think because she is a woman, she is open to the complexity and the varying shades of this guy. Nothing is black and white, and yeah, I was marveling at that.
And one of the things about this movie I wonder about is I felt like this movie does a really good job, and part of it is the story that Doctorow had written. It's a really honest and true take on the kind of stuff that you think about when you're in a long-term committed relationship, and how as that relationship evolves, there are these tiny resentments that end up, if you're not careful, building into like, there she goes again, and like, and I think that that's true for a lot of people, and it's just, this movie is honest about that in a way that I think you don't see a lot of movies, and I kind of wonder, I'd be fascinated to see what somebody who has always been single and never been in that type of relationship would think of this movie, and where this goes. Because being on the inside of a relationship like that, you have a perspective that I think you see. I mean, there's certain times in this movie I'm like, well, that hits a little too close to home sometimes.
Because you too wanted to be homeless and foraging through dumpsters for food.
But it's more just like, there's those internal monologues you have about the family that you're in that I think can be, I mean, you guys are like, oh no, we never do that. But I just think are fascinating that this movie and this story touches on and kind of, in a lot of places, embraces that I think a lot of places, this movie handles that with a subtlety and an awareness that, and probably a lot of it is Swikord's direction, because a lot of times you see somebody will get into a point in a relationship as represented in a movie like, oh, this is the thing that I hated about you forever, and it turns into this big dramatic moment, and it's over the top, and this movie like just kind of quietly lets those play out and lets him express those in a way that I think you just, internally, that I think you don't see much.
Yeah, it doesn't judge him for anything he does. Yeah, it's a showy performance internally, but also he has this big arc physically from how he looks at the beginning of the film to by the end of it. And anyway, it's really great. I don't know where it's playing this weekend. It was out in limited release last weekend, and hopefully it's going wider.
I think it's expanding this week.
Is that what your website says?
Maybe.
Okay.
Don't believe my website.
I'm giving it an 8. It's really good. You?
I give it an 8.5. Okay. I really liked it, and it's at 80% on the 3.
Yeah, our
you have convinced me to see it.
Yeah, it's good. It moves really well. Good sense of place in this like posh little Westchester town.
You should see this instead of Pirates, and then your review for Pirates can be, I enjoyed Wakefield, and that's what you should see.
I've seen the other Pirates movies. and they were not good.
Right. Here's my review of Wakefield.
Yeah.
Go see Wakefield instead this Memorial Day weekend. Bye.